You choose your starting lineups. You make managerial decisions. You pitch, catch, hit, and because this is the only officially licensed Major League Baseball video game cartridge, this is real baseball for real baseball fans. Welcome to Nostalgia, a chronological exploration of every NES game released in North America. I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the 100th episode of Nostalgia.
100 years of nostalgia.
Do you have a word for that?
Kazoo noise?
Kazoo noise? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like kazoo tight. Okay. Yeah, guys, how are we feeling?
Feeling
100 years
Happy
older.
100, yeah. 100 years older.
So I did some math here, okay? And I took everything that we've said about the essential games, the games that are worth your time, and just the bad shit, you know? Out of the 100 games that we've played so far, keep in mind that I don't have the verdict for Major League Baseball, but we have 12 essential games. We have 18 games that are worth your time on top of those. They're not quite essential. And then we have 69 nice bad games, okay? Given the rough estimation of like 750 NES games total, that means that just extrapolating some information here, we're looking at about 84 essential games, 126 games worth your time, and 483 bad games.
I honestly don't think it's going to project linearly. I think it's going to be more and more bad games.
483 sounds low for bad games.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even though that's like alarmingly high compared to 69, nice. I think right now we're only just starting to hit like peak Nintendo prowess. Like 1988, the NES is considered like the must-get toy of the year for Christmas. So it's only now becoming like a cultural phenomenon. I think that has to do largely in part to like, you know, just not, it wasn't in the zeitgeist yet.
Yeah, it's already been established.
We had like our super soft New York City launch in 1985. In 86, it comes everywhere, but only with Nintendo games. Mm-hmm. And then finally in like 87, it's like, we're starting to see a lot of arcade developers now bring over their games to the NES.
Yeah.
What we have never seen, but are now seeing a lot in 88 is franchises, movie titles. We have an officially licensed MLB game now. Like, this is the first sports licensed game that we have. So
is this of it like anywhere, or is it just on NES?
Just on NES. I think already at this time, Major League Baseball at least made a version for Intellivision that sold like really well. But that is obviously like much different than playing an NES. That's zigzags and lines to describe characters and stuff. But if we want to just go a little bit more into some stats on the 100th episode here, out of our essential games, 4 of them are adventure games. And that's actually like the highest thing we have. Otherwise, it's very nicely spread between run and gun, zapper, arcade, sports, and shmup.
We have a sports title?
We do have a sports title. It is, why can't I think of this off the top of my head?
You got the stats, Mike.
We used to have Slalom.
Well, it doesn't have it like that. It don't have it like that. I'll get back to you on that.
Totally.
I'll get back to you on
It's
that.
fine.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's fine. Everything's cool.
I think we've had a pretty good variety.
Yeah, definitely.
Goodness that you didn't worry about the Zapper game, though, and that you rememred what that one was.
Yeah.
Do you know what the run and gun game is?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you because you know I know.
Right, that one was Contra, so at least you know that one. These are good. These are good. I don't want to go into too many more details.
I have my own statistic. Like, if it turns out that like with the amount of like, you know, time that we've been doing this podcast and the amount of games that we've reviewed, we will continue to average like 1 game a week going forward if we continue this pace.
That's interesting. That's a bold prediction, though, because I think that's going to completely be turned on its head.
Whoa. You think so?
Mm-hmm.
That's some big news.
Yeah. I'm announcing it here, everybody.
Thank you for stalling, Sean, but I was able to get the answer. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Oh, yeah,
right.
Of course.
Which, of course, we consider like a rhythm game.
Yeah.
But sports games are also where this system is dominating right now. We have a total of 20 sports games that we've played so far, now 21 with Major League Baseball. And of those, 17 got skip-its, 2 are plays, and 1 is essential.
Yeah.
Of course, the other play is slalom, but what's the... Oh, Excite Bike would be the second play. A very divisive thing is arcade games, where 13 are skips, but 6 are plays, and 1 is essential.
What's essential?
For arcade?
Yeah.
Isn't it Balloon Fight?
Balloon Fight. Okay,
I would just say that at least I have something of a bias against arcade games on a console, but obviously that really there wasn't really a dichotomy at this point.
Totally. Yeah, I think nowadays when you get like, for me, arcade games can still show off because in last week's episode I did put Pac-Man Championship Edition DX as like one of my top 5.
Puyo Puyo Tetris too. You're a big fan.
Yeah.
Didn't make
Puyo Puyo Tetris is good. So that's that in terms of just genres and stuff. But I also wanted to talk about NES publishers because Nintendo R&D 1 has so far made 24 games for the NES, and of those, 14 of them have been deemed skip-its. So Nintendo, not as hot as we might think. Granted, 4 of those games are essential. And 6 of them are play-its, but 14 skip-its is also like not a number to shy on.
Mike, if we think about it as batting average, that would be well above the Mendoza line, wouldn't you say?
Doesn't seem relevant.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it seems very relevant, and I agree. I don't want to say like Nintendo makes bad games. They're making great games here. I think it's just funny that like
hot takes here,
right? When we get games from Data East, Tosei, Atlas, those are 3 developers that have made now over 5 games for the system, and all of them have been considered shit by us.
Yeah,
we didn't even give a single one of them a consideration. Data East, whenever I hear that name, I know what I'm getting into.
Yeah, totally pop flies.
He's doing a good job over here. I really like this. Can you keep this when we actually start talking about baseball?
I will try.
Okay, that's great. And of course, we have to give a shout out here to Konami, who out of 9 games has either been complete dog shit or has been only essential. They don't have a single play on here. 5 skips, 4 essentials. Can't wait to see what they come out with next to see if they balance the force here.
Kind of like Shaq at the free throw line, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's
All right, anyway.
Right. It's more like, batting cleanup.
Yeah, the cleanup guy.
There you go. Also, Shaq at the three throw line, he was terrible. That's funny. And last but not least, to wrap up this 100th episode thing, other than the fun game we're going to play in the post show, so definitely stick around. And what's that? You never heard about our post show before? Go back to every episode.
Yeah, does anybody listen past the end theme song? Maybe no one's ever heard the post show.
There is a chapter marker for it, but maybe some people don't use chapters either, which is like, to me, that's like listening to a podcast blind.
You could do that.
I guess you could. Funny world. Nintendo R&D 4. 0 skips, 0 plays, 2 essential games.
R&D
Do you know what those
4.
2 games are?
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
They're the 2 biggest, best games on the NES
Legend
so far.
of Zelda.
Yes.
And Super Mario Brothers.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Yep. Nintendo R&D 4 just being like 2 and done.
Yeah.
Now, I looked at the rest of their lineup, and they pretty much are going to continue to clean it up.
Wow.
With essential games, as far as I'm concerned. There is the debate of The Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, because some people don't think that game is all that great. So that'll be the one that we'll see if we break their essential score.
So would you say that, like, if we didn't know any better, we could imagine that maybe they're on performance enhancing drugs?
Yeah. If we didn't know, if you directly correlate steroids and developer programming, sure. I think that what they do is they drink like Red Bull and take speed, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that what developers do?
Totally.
Yeah. We'll just ask Miyamoto next time we grab him for an interview. Sean, since you're so wise about baseball, would you like to give me an overview of the sport itself?
Well, I mean, it's the same as our second episode ever. If you haven't listened to it, don't. It sounds terrible. But no, you know what? Just do it. Just listen to it. But no, you got sticks, you got bases, you got a ball you got to hit, and when you hit it, you got to run into the bases until you get points. It's simple, Mike.
I agree with that assessment of the game.
The game of baseball.
Did you mention a bat at all, though, at any time?
Stick. It's a stick ball. Stick ball.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but the stick ball is like only played in Brooklyn.
It's American pastime.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm sure everybody who's listening knows what baseball is.
Probably.
In 1994 they were like surveillancing us through satellites in the sky and stuff like that. And
baseball was?
Yeah, You never saw that Simpsons episode? And also, very recently, baseball has been in like a weird thing with the Houston Astros being like accused of cheating through a season, and I think that's incredible. Like,
I thought it was just a Patriots thing.
Well, also, like, just for what it's worth, the Major League Baseball is not without problems. It used to be like the number one sport in America and was considered like the defining thing, but they just never figured out a way to make it more exciting. And the NFL, like, as soon as like TV became a thing, figured out like, oh, we could definitely make this seem sexy. Whereas like, there's no way to watch a guy like stand at a plate and observe pitches for waiting for the one that he wants sexy. Like in football, you have to make a call. You have to play very active. In hockey, you skate for 20 minutes.
It's really basketball that's overtaking it, though.
Well, yes, that's true. I guess I more meant to say that like at this point in time, Major League Baseball in 1988 is the shit.
Yeah,
and you have a lot of like superstars, or the superstars of even like the last decade, or even starting here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be hyped about for this game, but I think nowadays, if the show MLB The Show, which is now only on PS4 but is coming to all systems, if that game didn't exist, there would probably be very little hype for baseball games comparatively.
Yeah. I know that like EA just kind of dropped out, and did 2K used to make a game?
2K used to make one too, and they both just kind of said like,
it's not worth it.
Yeah,
MLB The Show, is that the only one? I thought there was just MLB. I thought MLB The Show was something different than like MLB.
Okay, so that isn't entirely true. We've just sort of glossed over it. The MLB has actually started to fund the people that are like rebooting RBI.
Right, okay.
But that isn't quite at the same level.
Gotcha.
Right. And then there's also like fun spin-offs too of like it's baseball but without all the messy franchising, because these people want way too much money.
Exactly, yeah.
But speaking of franchising, this is the first time that we have actual like teams to select from.
Yeah.
And you even get to see like their true colors of those team uniforms for all 30 teams.
26 back then.
What's that?
It was 26.
Oh, 26. Yeah, okay, yeah, because who would have been added in the... Oh, yeah, there was like
there were a couple expansions.
There was a 96 expansion for sure, and I think a 93 expansion as well. The Marlins
also,
probably weren't in yet, right?
I think you're right. One other note, I mean, you could have played as some of the teams in the original baseball made by Nintendo.
But it was just NY. It
was just sort of like... like sort of nudging you that these were the teams, not quite.
Yeah.
Right, and
it was implied.
A bigger thing about this one too is that if you want to look into it, even though they don't give the names of the players when you make your lineups and stuff, if you look at the stats for the year prior, they are very close. Yeah. Some of them are a little off.
I thought that was pretty interesting that the stats were based on real characters, because they had the right to use the teams but not the right to use the players.
They probably didn't have is there an MLBPA?
There is an MLBPA, and I think it might have even just come down to the idea of like saving space.
No, I was just reading that it was actually like I could be wrong where I was reading it, but I was just reading that it was actually like a permissions thing. Like they weren't allowed to use the players' names. Yeah.
And that makes sense, because it's totally possible to get the names of the teams without having to get the names of the players.
I mean,
two separate organizations.
Right.
Without getting off topic too much, that's the reason that most of the college football games had every team, but they had zero names. It was just numbers, and they sort of looked like the archetype of the player.
Right. But I thought it was cool to see that, and to also get all those stats. We'll obviously get into the gameplay, but that was something that just grabbed me right away, is that like we haven't seen this before. Whether, we played almost every type of sport now. I can't think of which ones we're missing. Cricket, yeah, that's true. We didn't get a cricket game yet. Good contribution, Sean.
There's a cricket game now, Mike.
Yep. No, I just think for what it's worth, I'm a big baseball fan. What about you guys?
I grew up in a big baseball house. I played it when I was younger, and I was a fan, but not a big fan. I don't really follow the MLB or anything anymore.
And your team is like Yankees?
My family's a big Red Sox fan.
Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
So I couldn't have insulted you higher.
Yeah.
I literally knew nothing about the sport until maybe high school, and then while I knew how the sport was played, I didn't care about it until college. And then you welcomed me into the Mets fandom, and now I am a casual viewer. And I'll watch the World Series and I'll watch the Mets when they're good, but that's been a while.
Yeah, and as Sean mentioned, I am a New York Mets fan. This is a great time to be a New York Mets fan.
1988,
In 1988, because even if you're going off the 87 team, we have most of the 86 team, which won the World Series, in there. So, it was not hard to be like, okay, cool, I want Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry. Like, I want those guys in the lineup right away. So let's just dive into it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
What happens when you boot up the game, Sean?
You get to pick if you want to play a 1 or 2 player game. Then you move on to whether you would like to play a regular game, a World Series game, or an All-Star game.
And the differences amongst those were a little different than what I was expecting, but I guess it makes sense. A regular game is just a one-off game between 2 National League or 2 American League teams.
You can't go interleague in a regular game?
You can't go interleague, and that's the way it used to be, for what it's worth. Now, interleague happens all the time in baseball schedule, but you cannot select a National League team and an American League team. That's what the
difference was.
And that's because in the All-Star game, that's when you get to assemble a National League team and select from any player from any team, which is just could take forever, honestly, but if you're into that, go for it. And then also for the American League, you do the same thing.
See, I thought that there was going to be a presentational difference. I thought that after you won the game, or actually I thought it was going to be a series.
Right.
I thought that there would be some sort of fanfare or like a graphic of fireworks or something, and it just ended.
Yeah, I was hoping even the World Series one would at least be like a best of 7 one, you know? And instead it's just, no, now you can pick a National League team versus an American League
and decide if it's going to be DH or not and all that. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. So the team selection process, what do we think about that?
I actually don't remember exactly what was happening. I remember it being a little not intuitive. There was something weird about it, right?
Well, the weirdest thing about it for me is that one wrong button and you don't go back one step. You go back to the main menu.
Yeah. I didn't even think I noticed that.
And it gives you a really angry beep. It's just like, you did wrong. Like, try again, dummy.
Right, and it's like, just there's got to be a reason for like, no, I want to just go back to picking my team again. Like, I don't. It's not even like all the players and stuff. It's like I can't even go back to like any previous step. I have to start over.
Yeah.
So you better make those decisions
beforehand. Yeah.
It also doesn't clearly explain that like you're only allowed to select a certain amount of infielders, outfielders.
Well, yeah, you're also. I mean, you're technically setting your defensive lineup.
when you're setting the batting order here, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's the beginning of the game, in my opinion. No matter which mode
you're selecting
you pick.
a team. That's why I was.
I gotcha.
Well, you can't. It's not like you can have 5 infielders. So
no, it's true, but they also don't specify like, oh, this guy plays shortstop.
Yeah.
This guy plays. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's almost like when you're first picking. You want to just be like, well, shit, I'm just going to pick the guys with the best batting averages.
Exactly.
But then you realize, like, oh, you need to add a catcher, you need to add an outfielder, and they're on separate screens, which is fine. Yeah. Helps sort everything out. But do you think this was maybe just too much information overall for a game that's this simple?
I think in general, it's really cool that you have the option. It gives you that immersion and it lets you feel like, oh, this is like my career mode, even though you're only playing one game and you're picking whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think it's like you said, it's so simple. I'm curious as to like what difference it really makes. And I don't know if I need it in this, to be honest. I think in like, if we were one level higher of like, maybe if we were on the Super Nintendo, we had a little more, it felt a little more real, or maybe even like the N64 or something, then I'd be like, okay, I want a little more control. Here, I just want to like play an arcade game of baseball.
Yeah. I think that something that we'll see and we have seen throughout the evolution of sports games is just that they're all grasping for authenticity and like, what else can I add to this game to make it more authentic? And this is kind of the first step. You've got the real teams, you've got the real players and their stats. Yeah, you can't play a season. Yeah, you can't play a series. Yeah, there really isn't any difference in what they look like, but it's a step. And I think that in the history of sports games, it's an important step.
And let's not forget that like that's the selling point on the back of the box.
Yeah.
Like Sean's definitely right here, because every single thing in bold on the back of the box is about like you basically being the manager. Like, forget about, like even playing the game. Right. The whole idea is that like you're in control of your favorite team, which is an important selling point.
Yeah.
In Double Dribble, you're in control of two random basketball players that you have no affinity for.
I think you got the full. Don't you have the full team?
In Double Dribble?
Yeah.
I was picturing like NBA Jam for a second. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's 4-on-4 or what is it?
I think it's 5-on-5.
Okay, wow. Even in Double Dribble. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, I like NBA Jam for what it's worth. So it's
I love NBA Jam.
It's not a knock on only having two players, but again, NBA Jam has the whole like licenses thing going on, so that helps. So you pick all your you pick your team. And then the computer, like, blazingly fast picks its team.
I don't know why it needs to show you. It could just show me the screen.
Right, like, afterwards. Like, give me the lineup card. I'll be fine. And then you're, like, greeted with the stadium and stuff like that. And I don't know about you guys, but this was just not that great of a presentation for the stadium. It's like 1 billion flies have just shown up to the stadium. They're, like, blinking lights. There's no, like, little people or anything like that. There's blinking lights, and there's just so much, like, chatter, and then one guy who's like whistling just over and over and over again. And it's like, I think on the baseball episode we complained about how quiet it was, but I'm thinking now that I would rather that than like this like
it's another attempt at emulating that atmosphere, and again, they don't have the tools for it.
It's funny though, because they kind of brag about it in the manual. I don't know if you guys read this, but like in the objective of the game, at the end of this paragraph where it's explaining everything, it says, even hear the roar of the crowd as you hit a home run. That roar of the crowd is literally just static. Like, it is actually really annoying. And I just thought it was funny that they like kind of like bragging about it a little bit, and it's just like the most generic, like,
I may have been impressed. Who knows?
Maybe you were.
Yeah.
I think you were. But the first thing you might do, you're either batting or pitching, but I think we could talk about batting first. The most noticeable changes to me just going from baseball to here is that you now have the ability to move around you can move from like left to right.
In the batter's box.
In the batter's box.
You could do that in baseball.
Could you?
Yeah.
But I think
you can adjust like where you are attempting to hit it.
I think my problem with the baseball one was that if the ball like landed in your zone where you moved too far in, it just went right through you.
Yeah.
Which just didn't help with the feeling of it.
That's part of why it was haunted.
Yes. And in this one you can also bunt or fake bunt too. I don't know if the computer ever like pitched differently because it thought I was bunting, but I imagine that it could work if I faked a bunt and then went around for a full swing.
Also, we should mention too, when you move in the batter's box, I think you can only move forward and back.
That's true.
You can't move in all four directions. And then if you have runners on base, even while you're batting, you are technically also the manager at the same time, and you're allowed to make calls for runners to steal.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool feature. I think like, I don't know, like the AI.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah, it's this uncomfortableness of like, does it know exactly what I'm doing, or like, is there an opportunity for mistakes and stuff like that? So let's keep talking about batting for the time being. How'd you guys feel about hitting a ball and controlling that kind of, against a pitcher?
I thought it was good, but sometimes I felt like I was a little cheated. Maybe I was just bad at it, but there were a few times where I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute! I think I hit the ball there."
I thought it was way too easy, and this is coming from like my explanation of baseball 1. I'm just going to keep saying baseball 1. This is a completely different game. Yeah. Was that it made me rage quit? Like I couldn't complete a game, and because I couldn't hit, and this game is so easy that I think I racked up like 50 hits in a game, and I was leading like 35 to 11 at one point. It was just way too easy. And
I think the scores in general in this game just get out of control, regardless of
for both teams.
Yeah, for both teams, regardless, computer or you. There's just like home runs are very frequent.
Yeah.
And I would say that yes, the pitching is easy, provided that they don't throw one of those like insane fastballs that was just like, well, I'm just never going to be prepared for that. And maybe that's more real than anything, is how fast the fastballs are.
There were a few that were slow and like right down the middle. And I just feel like I hit the ball, but like it's not like you can control like the height of your swing. So like there's not like maybe my timing was slightly off, but like visually I hit the ball, but I didn't. I guess maybe my timing was off.
Maybe one of the reasons that I did well enough is because there is such a discrepancy between how fast their fastball is and how slow the changeup is that they also just decided to let you swing multiple times. So if you just like time the pitch, you can hit that fastball, and if it's not a fastball, you can just swing again.
It's funny that they don't even count the first one as a strike against you. Like, okay, fine, you hit the ball, but that first one, that's a strike. That reminds me of like baseball bugs.
So how does that even work? When does it count as a strike? Like,
what do you mean? When it crosses the plane.
Well, only when it's crossing the plane. Like
only when it's officially like out of these opportunity zone, like once it's been caught by the catcher, which is the same thing as passing the zone. I think that this is actually the section, though, batting specifically, that made me question why I built together a lineup in the first place. Because averages don't seem to matter. Home runs counts barely matter. Like, anyone is possible of hitting the ball provided you make contact with the baseball. And it doesn't matter. Like, it's not like they hit it better or they run faster. So, like, there was just a huge... I feel like forget about all those stats. Like, I get that helps me think about what player it was. Right. Forget about all those stats and just give me, like, out of a score of 4, like, their power, their contact, and their speed. And that would have been enough.
I mean, it's entirely possible that every time you hit a single, or what would have been a single, it was a worse player.
But I didn't notice that specifically.
I didn't either.
I was looking for something like that, and I had no problem whether my guy was hitting 270 or 320. Like neither one was an objectively better player than the other one.
That's true.
And the home run goes the same too. I had a guy who
was your pitcher hitting home runs.
Yeah, I don't know if my pitcher hit a home run. I don't remember, but like you had guys who had 34 home runs and guys who had 3, and the guy who had 3 is also hit a home run in that game. It's not like it's just not like, not that it should be impossible for any player to hit a home run. Right. It's just like in the odds of my game, he just happens to hit a home run, and so does the other guy. Like, it just seems easy. And speaking of home runs, when you hit a home run, they just keep running out there.
You have to sit and wait and like
gate.
They're like, no, I'm going to get it.
And I'm worried that they might.
They're like watching they might like hop the fence and.
So I thought that was funny that like if you hit a home run that they just keep running.
Maybe they can't see, because when you're in the field, sometimes you can't see where you're running because the camera doesn't let you see. So maybe they have the same problem.
Yeah, maybe they do have that problem. And then while we're on this whole subject of your at bats and stuff, did you guys like find it frustrating to control, like, okay, I hit a pretty good ball there, but it's in play, and I think this could be a triple, but I'm having trouble communicating, like, move to the next bag.
So, yeah, I did have trouble with that at first. I did get used to it. But then I just realized that it really doesn't matter if it's on the cusp or not, because they will not try and catch you. like they will cut you off so that you can't hit second if it's a double or you can't hit third if it's a triple, but they will make no attempt to throw it back to the previous base and catch you in a hot box or anything.
I noticed that too. So yeah, as long as you know how to return, then you're fine.
Then you're fine.
But it just like gets a little confusing sometimes. Like, wait, hold this. And this.
The button combinations are weird because you have to hit a directional button and A if you're going forward and B if you're returning. But
once you just know
opposite.
A is to advance. B is to return, and then just the directional buttons are the bases. And then like once you get your head around that, it's a little more intuitive, but it did take me a little while to get the.
I also just found myself still like aggressively tapping like A and the direction at all times, just to make sure it was going to register.
Same. Yeah.
I think you have to hit the first base, like whatever the first base you hit is, and then you can input for the next one.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but
I almost wish you could just like. Or input things in advance, like a manager would make that call right away anyway. But I understand that it's like, it's more of a programming parsing thing where it's like, oh, well, you can't go to third, he's not at second yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the other thing, because it's even confusing the way I described it, because the directional button is not the base you want to go to.
It's the one
that's
you're
the
on.
base that the runner you want to advance is on, in case you have two runners on base. So like that gets a little confusing too, because someone's be like, all right, like run to second, and I'm hitting the second. And I'm like, no, I got to hit first, because he's on first, and I'm telling him to run to second.
Who's on first?
What's on second?
Very good. And no one tried stealing?
I did not.
I think
stealing.
I did just for the heck.
I tried to steal too, and I did not work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might be
it
that
seems
AI
like
issue that you guys were talking about, but
it just also feels like
You can't get a lead.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know when to steal.
It's not like they don't just eventually, like if they haven't thrown the ball yet, it's not like they're going to then choose to throw it to home anyway. Like they know that the pickoff is happening.
And I
so
tried
they
to
just
pick
go
off.
for it.
I tried to pick off some people too. Like nothing changes. They never lead off or anything either. Really, so
I found I tried to pick off a lot, but going back to stealing, is it possible to steal while they're pitching? Like, is that
No. You'd have to.
It has to be like before the pitch.
It has to be before the pitch because then you're in control. Then you're in control of the batter at that point.
Yeah.
So not that great. I think even just being able to lead off the bag would have went away.
Yeah.
Like I think they did solve this in the N64 version of Major League Baseball, where you can
Took that long.
you can hit the C buttons on the NES in the direction of the base you want to go to, and if you just tap it once, you go a small leadoff, medium, large, and then finally the fourth tap is like, I'm stealing. They want you to commit to it.
But you're like setting it to steal for the pitch, so you don't have to hit a button during the pitch.
Exactly. But you could do it during the pitch too. You can.
Yeah.
In the pitch, they won't even take a leadoff. If you press the appropriate bag on the pitch, they'll immediately start taking off. But again, that's like 64-bit programming. Not really 64-bit programming, but you get the idea. There's only one other thing you can do, though, after you bat, and that's pitch. It becomes the second half of the inning or the next inning, depending on if you're the home or away team, and now you must pitch. Pitching here, more intuitive, and also the realistic side of the game, for what it's worth in terms of adding realism to actual players.
Sure.
And I say that because there's a staying power associated with the pitcher,
like a pitch count.
Yeah, a pitch count, and also the number of fastballs you throw, which is like kind of ahead of its time to be thinking about stuff like that, because only very recently, like in the late 2000s, did people start thinking about he's got 100 pitches, he's going to be pulled out of the game soon. It's like it never was like that before. Starting pitchers would go for a very long time in games, and I think they maybe realized I could make more money if I lasted longer in my career, so I shouldn't be pitching for so long for these teams. So, pitching, how do we feel?
I mean, I think it was fine. You had 4 pitches. What do you get? A fastball, a slow ball, a curveball.
I mean, I think you get 2 pitches and then you can do whatever you want with them after that.
I would say it's 3 pitches, right? It's like it's 3 pitches, meaning that you can press to make it slow. You can press upwards to make it fast, and you can hold in just throw a regular to just throw it down the line. But then once you throw it, you're in control kind of the curve.
You can make it a curveball if you wanted to.
So I thought it was right was curveball. In the manual, too, it was just what I did the whole time. Right was curveball and left is screwball.
Well, I mean, I guess technically, but what it's really...
Are you actually controlling the level?
You are
like
controlling you are controlling the movement of the ball after it leaves your hand.
I would just hold the button I wanted to throw, and it would just curve ridiculously into...
Like, you can actually make it dance in the air. And
I didn't know that. I never even took my finger off of.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I was able to get the computer to just like think it was going to be a ball, and then it actually is a strike.
So what about
times, but I was really bad at that too.
Fastball? Yeah, can you like
just hold down?
I'll explain it. It's funny because I know what you're talking about. In the manual, they don't say it so clearly, but what they
I thought you were just selecting your pitch.
Right. What they mean to say is that before you pitch, you can choose between up and down on the control pad or no button at all. Once you pitch, up and down mean nothing anymore. You can't slow the speed of the ball. But left and right now come into play for direction. So you can bring it inside to, close to the batter, or you can pitch it away.
And if you are holding left or right while you're pitching, it will be an inside or an outside pitch. So there is some like pre-touch, I guess, but then there's that after touch.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that makes it a little more complicated than I thought it was. I thought it was just very like, here are your 4 pitches.
No, yeah.
And you use these.
And you guys mentioned that you tried picking off players, but that never worked.
Never worked.
Nope.
I feel like the picking off, the way that it's described in the manual, implies that you can pick people off from the base they're currently on, but I think it's only ever meant to be used for if they try to steal.
Yeah, and I think that's only going to happen if you're playing a 2-player game.
Right,
right. Which, I mean, is good, right? You wouldn't not want that option, but it never comes into play with the AI.
Yeah.
So it's not really worth it. And let's say you pitch a fastball down the middle and the computer makes contact with it. It goes in the air, and suddenly a brand new concept is introduced to baseball games on the NES.
Fielding.
Fielding. What a concept. Joe, you want to take away fielding for us?
Yeah, I want to start with the first thing that happened to me that kind of haunted me the rest of the game is that there's a pop fly into the outfield. You can't see your outfielder. But you see the ball, like it's where it's going, so I just have to kind of blindly like kind of guess where the outfielder is, and you're still controlling him, and then finally when it comes into view and you realize you're like 40 miles west of where you're trying to be, and you got to try and run the ball, you'll never make it. So that was like a little bit of a frustrating thing. I don't know what the solution is. I guess just
I guess a point, like a cursor pointing towards you.
Yeah, something like that.
I agree. With Sean there, that even a cursor pointing towards you, or maybe some kind of like variation of scope, so this way you always see your player on the field. Yeah. But I took it to mean like where that ball was currently hit, you were never going to catch it. You know what I mean? Like it was like this field is big, and you just weren't there, and now you have to like chase after it.
Yeah, you could have.
If you were
in
real life in the outfield, you could have easily like you. Sometimes I'm like a few like.
Well,
a few
everything
feet away
in this
from
game
it.
feels like it's a line drive. You know, there's no pop up where the ball is hanging for like 10 seconds.
I thought there were a lot of those.
There were a few of those.
That happened to me
10
quite a
seconds?
bit. I mean, not 10 seconds literally.
I'm just saying, like, that's
enough
how
time,
long they really are up in the, you know, like,
but enough time that I definitely think like any Major League Baseball outfielder would have been able to get under it.
I feel like maybe I just sucked as a pitcher, but for the most part, I was either getting ground balls or I was getting line drives. I never felt like I got a true, like, ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I think even what you did there, that sound, was shorter than the amount of time. And yeah, it happens in my head as I'm playing, but.
Got it.
I mean, it even happens sometimes on fouls. It'll go right behind you, and you can get people out that way.
Are we willing to admit though that fielding in general is just a little fidgety? Like
it's entirely 100%. Fidgety.
Because sometimes also like you are direct. I'm just talking about pop-ups, but you are directly under the ball, and it just kind of like goes through you a little bit and like lands.
You weren't like perfectly there. And it's like there's no way to know.
Right.
We also need to talk about after you recover said ball. The speed at which you're throwing.
It's like the slowest the ball moves in the whole game.
I don't know what the logic is behind it, but like, let's say it's an outfielder, specifically an AI outfielder. That ball will be on fire coming into the base that they're trying to get you out at. But if it's like from third to first or second to first, it's moving slower than anything can.
Yeah, it's almost like it's taking like the same amount of distance, or like different amounts of distance over the same amount of time, like no matter what.
I'm not really sure why, because it made double plays almost impossible.
Yeah.
And another thing about the AI, their running AI is a little. They're a little too conservative because
they don't take a chance.
They don't take any chance. If you are 300 feet away. And you pick up a fly ball and somebody's at second or somebody's at third, they won't try and go home. You like if you're in control, you can do that,
right?
But they just stand still. It's
I also
so
found
weird.
that unless they are pretty well committed, if you throw the ball to second, they stay at first. They never even if there was like a chance, maybe, right? Because you can always head back. There was never like okay, I'm going to go for he threw it there. All right, I'm going back. It's like they just wait and see how everything is going to be played out. And, that's a fault of the game. Like, there probably should have been some difficulty sliders.
Yeah, there's a few misses on the AI to make it feel realistic.
What I did like about the fielding was that there is also an option to tag a player at the base as well by holding B instead of A. And that could have easily just went like miss, like you have to throw. Yeah. But I appreciate that they thought about the infield with that in mind, and had a whole second button dedicated to like figuring out ways to also tag out the runner.
There's also like a version of this game that I think could have existed where you couldn't get them out by just running in front of them, but you can do that too if you just make contact.
Yeah. Double plays, well, maybe impossible from like the outfield. They can happen if they're hit appropriately on the infield. So I like that. I like a lot about the fielding for the first time we're seeing it. Maybe I'm like treating it like the original baseball on the NES here.
Yeah, I mean it's I guess it's still training wheels for this kind of game.
But I thought it was better than expected for a first go around. I'd say pitching for me was the best part because you're able to control the ball throughout the entirety of its pitch, and batting just felt too easy, so I didn't really enjoy that. It's almost like you wanna just get out at a certain point just to help progress the game because it's gonna be 9 innings regardless.
I felt that too a little bit.
And what's up with the umpires just kind of like teleporting to the scene of the crime whenever like there's an out or something? They just like show up and they make the call. But what a lot of people won't notice is that they will change their like number of hands in the air based on the call as well. So if it's like safe, they do the 2. Okay. As if they were like crossing their hands, they don't do that actual animation.
They just show like, there's still the same amount of hands that they're involved in that motion.
If he's out, they just show the one hand, and I thought that was like a nice touch. We could use more of that in the game in general. Why not show some players sliding, even if there's not a button for it, right? Why not just occasionally a player slides to the base?
It's true. I mean, again, just that presentation and authenticity sort of thing.
Especially for those pop-ups that you're talking about, right? Where like all of a sudden you're like, I'm standing under the ball, but it goes like kind of just behind me, right? Maybe that's a great opportunity for like a glove, like an overly sized glove,
like a big old glove.
Given the cartoony nature of the game anyway, to just like show up. And then this way you have a better idea of like, I'm in that target zone.
I will say, and maybe this is something that just happens in 2-player games because there are more opportunities for fault. But I never saw an error, even though there's a box for it, and not the back of the box. The instruction manual says that there are errors. And I've definitely seen what should be errors by the AI. Like just fielders running away with the ball or like running away from the ball, but it never showed up on the box score. I don't really know why. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I'm looking into it now, and I can't find any evidence of what an error would be in this game. Like no one's going to drop a ball once it's been registered as in their possession. There's no chance for it to be like, no, actually, this was the 1 in 96 that they dropped. This just doesn't happen. So I'm not sure, but I can understand, like, if it's in every box score ever in baseball, so might as well include it here, too. Not pretend like they don't exist, even if it's not going to happen in this particular
They do
game
advertise it happening, though.
They have a what? Oh, they have a chance of happening.
They do
Okay.
advertise it happening.
Right. Gotcha. Extra innings are possible as well. That's nice. I think
good feature to have.
I think in baseball it just ended.
It just ended in a tie.
Oh, that's right.
So-
Yeah, Sam had that weird situation where he had this huge comeback and he couldn't wait to get the extras and it just ended.
Yeah, he must have been
It
playing.
feels like such. Not that I know anything about programming a game, but it just feels like just make more of it. Like it feels just let it keep going. Like,
Yeah.
is it that hard?
He must have been
Who
playing
knows?
in a version where, like, it was pre-1930s and they didn't have the lights for the night
Yeah.
games out yet,
Time
so
to
they
go
had to
home.
just be like, "Yep, we'll cancel this game." And do you guys know about the MLB challenge for this game?
No.
It was like a thing where
It's like a Captain Commando challenge.
I guess it's not as inventive. Captain Commando challenges were a little more fun. This one is basically the only way to win a game, other than winning in like runs, is to exhaust all of the computer's pitchers.
And they just forfeit?
It's the only way to complete the game without completing all 9 innings. You get the computer to basically say mercy, because what it proceeds to do is find an available pitcher. It opens up the menu. It selects anything, and it gets told like that error sound of like, so this is not a pitcher, or like select a pitcher, blah blah blah, and then it just does it again and again on loop until you shut off the game.
Oh man, I want to do that now.
So you should try to do that.
Hitting is easy enough.
Yeah, it definitely would happen in a 9-inning game if you hit enough home runs and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's just like it's a lot of commitment because there's like I think 7 pitchers to go through.
I was able to, because I think that once like a pitcher is tired, it shows like a ball next to it or something when it goes to the select screen. But I think there was a point where I had gone through like 4 or 5 pitchers in that 50 hit game.
That's awesome.
So I think
were
maybe
close.
it's possible. Yeah.
You brought up the select screen. I realized we didn't talk about that. We were talking about how in Ikari Warriors 2, I really liked the UI of that of that select screen. This one, I wouldn't say I really like the UI, but you have to commend them for following through with the amount of available options
You
to
can
you.
pitch hit, you can sub, you can put a closer in, all that shit.
You can even
yeah.
sub-position players, even though it
Yeah.
doesn't matter at all, right? Like, now this guy is going to be playing right field, right? Like, doesn't matter, but, like, you can do that, and I have to applaud them for including that option. So, yeah, I'm amazed at how much this game wants you to think it delivers without delivering most of it.
That's a good way of articulating. Because I would say I'm impressed with the amount of effort they put in and the things they thought to include. But that's all I'm impressed with.
Yeah, I think we'll include this in the essential games list that
Right.
we're about to do.
Yeah, we definitely are.
Yeah, no. I meant like, would you have been mad if, as a baseball fan, you got this game in 1988?
Okay.
All right, so let's do the essential games list. Sean, start us off, and don't forget, it's a 2-part question this week. It's, would you have been mad if you got this in 1988? And also, is this in the essential games list?
Okay. So back to our first episodes, we started off with a couple sports games, and I sort of went into the philosophy of looking at these 20, 30 years later. And I think that I think it's important to look at the evolution of these games and how they get a little bit more in depth in terms of their presentation, their level of simulation, their authenticity. And I think this is a step in the right direction. It definitely is not without its faults. But yeah, just by virtue of being this iterative kind of game, it is not essential. But if I were a baseball fan in 1988, I would be impressed by what they showed up with, because again, I would want to play as a team even if it didn't mean anything. I would be impressed by the stats. I would be impressed by the relative level of minutia that you can get into the game with pinch hitting and all that. But yeah, I mean, I'd be impressed, but not right now.
Got it. Joe?
I wouldn't be disappointed in 1988 if as a baseball game I played this. I think it's good enough for 1988. And also, there's just something, just me personally, about like something about a sports game in particular where you kind of see the way it all works a little. It's just like interesting. It's like a little machine. The way like this is how this works. I know it's how every video game works, but particularly with sports games, you kind of like see it all functioning in a different way. But overall, it's already hard for a sports game to get onto our essential games list, and I think even as a sports game, this didn't blow me away that much anyways. Like, honestly, after a while, I was like, okay, it's baseball. Like, it's trying to do some things. It's not really delivering on all of it. I do not think this is an essential game. I particularly remember as a kid playing RBI baseball, and I, in my head, remember it being better. It might not be anything close, but I'm interested to see what that's like. And maybe just all baseball games on the NES were just like not as good as I thought they would have been. But
we're 9 episodes away.
I knew it was coming up, so I'm very
baseball.
interested because I have not played that since I was like 8 years old. But that's it.
Great. I think I said everything I needed to say here when I said that, like, I commend them for the effort, but it didn't follow through enough for it to be on the essential games list. So it's automatically off for that reason. But I think if you owned this game when it came out in 1988 and some kid next door neighbor had like baseball on the NES because it was made by Nintendo and came in some package deal, and then he comes over to your house, you're like the shit right now, you know? Like, it's a very competent game for what it's worth compared to the other one that we played. So I think that's worth mentioning. Another thing that's worth mentioning that I think is surprising that I've withheld until this time is that this is an LJN game. And LJN has so far released Gotcha the Sport, Jaws, The Karate Kid, and Town and Country Surf Design's Wood and Water Rage.
They really like sports. I mean, they've got this Gotcha the Sport.
Yep.
They got
the surfing and skateboarding.
Yeah. Like, you know, shark hunting is kind of a sport.
Karate.
Right. Karate is
a sport.
And to be fair, I think that this one probably made them a ton of money because the license isn't easy to get either, but they probably sold, if I had to take a guess, in 1988, at least 1 million copies of this game.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That seems a little high for me.
Well, the reason why I say at least 1 million, and this is, you know, me doing some research, is
because you know it's over 1 million.
No, I know that the Intellivision version of MLB sold over 1 million. So if anything, who knows? Maybe this sold even better. You know, don't forget, like Super Mario Brothers sold something like 45 million or 55 million. So anything can happen. I definitely think they made some money off of this, and you know, we shit on LJN a lot, and it's worth recognizing when they do good. So, I'm Michael Esposito Film. I'm just going to try and get as far through this as possible. No, we should actually like wrap this up, right?
Yeah, we should totally wrap this up.
I'm down to be done.
Good. I'm down to be done too because we have another baseball game happening like super quick. And then probably another one like not too far after that as well. But next week we have City Connection by Jalico.
That sounds like a made-up word.
Yeah. City Connection or Jalico?
City Connection sounds like it's like a dating sim or something.
Jalico here.
We really bring those up a lot.
Everybody's gonna find out sooner or later. But Jalico was a corporate brand name that was used by 2 previously connected video game developers and publishers based out of Japan.
Okay, cool.
They made games forever, all the way up to the PlayStation 2.
Wow. Congrats, Jalico, for your longevity.
Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance.
That's really weird.
Yep. So I pulled that one out of my hat real fast. Okay. That's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to 100 episodes of Nostalgia. We couldn't do this show without you guys. Please, the best thing that you could possibly do for us is tell somebody else about this show.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, we have friends and we've told them, but we've exhausted all of those friends. And I know that some of you I've never even met in real life. So you have friends to tell, and I know that much. So go tell them about this awesome show that you're listening to and be like, yeah, it's like a great show. And then at the end, they like beg, like some, like poor people or something like that. They just start like begging for like listens or something like that. And you know what? If you set up a Raspberry Pi that just plays us on loop, we're fine with that too.
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with that, even if no one's in the room. The Raspberry Pi is listening. Welcome to the post show. Today we are doing a really fun thing for the post show. I am going to list the title of one of the first 100.
Mike, this feels way too formal for a post show. Can you at least like mumble a little bit more or
Yeah,
something?
okay, I hear you. We're gonna just talk about some more games that we've already played. You guys might remember. It's not gonna be fun if I say like, what was pinball like? But Sean, tell us
You
about
got
pinball.
so fancy when he asked you to be more casual. Like you can't see it, but he's doing the little like head bob thing that like it's like, well, why don't you tell me? Head's rocking back and forth.
Pinball. I mean, I remember pinball. It's pinball.
No, well, but what do you remember visually?
I remember blue. There was a lot of blue. There were like green lines, and then there were 2 screens. And if you hit it into the bonus area, you played Breakout. Remember that?
No. When you get into the bonus area, that's with Mario and Peach.
Yeah, but you played Breakout.
Yeah, didn't you?
No, it wasn't like Breakout, was
Yeah,
it?
it was.
Oh, I guess it was.
You
yeah.
loser.
Well, it looks like the
I guess
teacher has become the
Well, because,
master,
like,
or whatever.
The
master
teacher
has become the
manager?
student,
Okay.
or something, or student has become the teacher. I don't know.
I guess what I meant was it's not quite Breakout because there's only 3 blocks. I thought you were talking about like a full game of Breakout because we played Breakout as well.
That's true.
It was called what?
Breakout.
No, it was called.
See,
I
this
was
is
waiting
the
for
fun
someone
of
to
the
finish
game.
my sentence.
Yeah.
Wait, I know this. It was called.
I know.
Bullet Storm.
Yeah, it had its own controller. Do you remember what the controller was called?
I didn't remember the controller had a name.
Oh yeah, the controller has a name too.
Wait,
I know this. Arkanoid.
Yes, Arkanoid, and the controller was called the Vouse.
I don't think
remember
I
because that
remember
was
that
the
at
name
all.
of the ship itself.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so let's see what else I can get you guys on. If I go too early, it's too easy. But maybe you could describe to me a game like Trojan.
I can do this one, I think. This is one where you have like a police baton, correct? Is this the right one? That's my description of the game.
Sure, okay.
But like you look like a police officer, right?
Well, it's like a post-apocalyptic thing.
but you look like a cop. That's all I remember.
I don't remember looking like a cop
and then,
at all.
And then
No,
there's
you look like you're a revolutionary, like road
maybe
kind
I'm thinking of a
person.
different one. Okay, and then at the end of the level, there's boss.
Yeah.
Wait, Revolutionary Road?
Yeah, it looked like
The Leonardo DiCaprio movie?
No, I didn't mean it like that. I meant like the Revolutionary Road, like the name
What are you
of
talking about?
like the war, the Revolutionary War, but like
But
On
the road.
You talking about Mad Max? What are you talking about?
yeah, it was actually like that's actually a great analogy. It was like that. It was like the Revolutionary War in the future.
Were there dogs that attacked you a lot?
No,
what am I thinking of?
The dogs is like that's Castlevania, right?
No. I
No,
know
don't you
Castlevania.
remember though? Trojan has like those guys who are like in the scorpion suits, who then like or the armadillos. They were the armadillos, and they roll up in those balls and like attack from the corners.
I swear there were dogs.
I'm sure there were dogs too. Why not? Okay, Sean, you can take on this one then. Russian Attack.
Russian Attack was it was a game that you were in a car, so like a dune buggy sort of thing. No, that's Breakthrough.
That's Breakthrough.
right.
You're doing good.
The Russian Attack is it's a side-scrolling, same kind of game as Trojan, except you're fighting Russians on a base.
Yes. That was good. I'll take that.
Yeah.
We're doing good.
I want to say that I'm looking at a video of Trojan, and I was thinking of absolutely nothing like what I'm looking at. This is not at all. This is
about Gumshoe?
I don't even think I played Trojan now looking at it.
You probably
I don't
did
remember
not
this
play,
at all.
You probably weren't on that episode.
I might
but that's
not have
weird.
been.
That was the first episode of 1987.
That is weird.
Okay, one of you, please describe.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at Russian Attack. I was thinking of Russian Attack. That's really weird. But like he looks kind of like a police officer,
That's
right?
funny. Well, to be fair, they came relatively close to each other. Trojan was episode 1 of season 3, and Russian Attack was episode 5.
Oh, we're going by seasons now.
Yeah, I do that on the podcast. Okay, Section Z.
Section Z, that's the you're in a little jetpack type thing, right?
Yep.
And it's A to shoot one direction, B to shoot in the other direction.
Yep.
A little
Revolutionary.
shmup. I kind of liked
Rogue.
that. I liked that. I liked that mechanic of it.
Wasn't
yeah.
a great game though. It was. It was.
Yeah, it was okay.
It's neat.
I just remember thinking that the mechanic of the A B left being left and right made it much more like
Intuitive.
to play. Exactly.
Load Runner.
That was a puzzle game. Kind of. No, well,
Kinda.
I mean, yeah, it was like you went up like ladders. And you blew stuff up.
Right.
No, I'm thinking of
You were
it.
collecting gold.
Yes, but didn't you could? I'm sorry, not blow stuff up. You dug in the ground, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you beat the final boss, and then there's like more to do. You had to like go find more
was a
stuff
boss?
after the final.
There's no boss in
What are you
Lode Runner.
talking about?
Yeah, there was.
Spelunker, you must be
Oh
thinking
my God.
of, right? Like, yeah, Lode Runner is like Lode Runner. This was the one that like it was.
Oh yeah,
it
you're
wasn't-
right. It's Spelunker.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm thinking of Russian Attack.
Wait a minute. Did I ever play any of these games?
Right. You played Lode Runner.
I'm thinking of Russian Attack.
One thing that everyone at home should know is that we've all definitely played Lode Runner because we recorded it twice. We recorded
did
that
they know
episode
that?
twice.
I think
No,
this
they
is
don't.
the reveal.
Oh, okay.
So this is really our 101st episode.
Well,
for
hold
us.
on. No, I don't. I don't subscribe to that theory because we also have a bunch of unreleased episodes. So there's that.
The secret levels.
Just all our regular
Yeah,
conversations
the
that we
lost
don't
levels.
record.
Lost levels, yeah.
When we reveal that, there's that whole mic without mics thing.
What is that?
I think one of them made the cut.
Yeah, one of them did. I'm sure. Tiger Heli.
It's definitely about a helicopter.
Yeah, is that the one that's that you're like kind of on a you're on like an axis thing? You can like turn very easily. Is that
No.
What's that?
That's the Raid of Bungling Bay.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't
Heli-
quite
Oh, wait.
remember Tiger Heli though.
Tiger Heli. You know this?
Is it a Zapper game?
No.
Oh my God.
No. You thought it was a Zapper
Operation
game.
Wolf was
Like
the
yes,
Zapper
yes,
game.
yes.
5,
I
right?
know.
You thought
know.
Tiger Heli was no. You remember Tiger Heli because that's the game where you're in a helicopter defeating the bad guys while also blowing up
Yeah, like a
houses.
town.
It's
That's
like
right.
blowing up
That's
a
right.
town. It's like
That's right.
nobody's harming you. You're the monster. Alpha Mission.
Give me a hint.
Alpha Mission's a shmup.
Oh, that's the one with the weird cursor select thing.
Yes, for the power ups.
Yeah.
Very good.
Man,
No,
I don't remember any games that we ever played.
Wow.
They're all gone.
Okay,
one ear out the other.
What about? Now we're so close. Kid Nicky Radical Ninja.
Oh yes, that was.
I barely remember that.
I think we beat the game.
that had like the big-headed bosses and stuff, and you had your weapon would like fly out of your hand and stick in the wall.
Yes,
yeah.
and you had to like jump up
Yeah.
there, but
And
it was like
a spinning
magically
sword.
jump.
Wait, you
Yeah.
had a ladder, right?
No, but you would no. That's Rygar. No, that's the well, you do have a ladder in Rygar.
Oh, that's
but,
Dragon Ball Power.
Yeah, Dragon Power, and also the ladder. I think you were thinking of Karnoff.
I was thinking
yeah,
of Karnoff.
Right,
Yeah, there was no
Karnoff
ladder.
is this
Oh,
season.
I was trying to remember the name of Karnov because I saw Karnov on the subway the other day. I swear it was him. No, he was standing on this. It was just like that mascot. Quote
Wow.
unquote.
Okay, I dig
Okay.
it.
Yep. Okay, what else do we have? Star Force.
It was very much like Alpha Mission.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you got away from Alpha Mission, didn't you? Did I give you guys a pass on that? No, you got that one.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I got
That
it.
was this like Star Force was like Alpha
Is
Mission,
it
except
Omega and like Phi Epsilon? Is it the one where everything
that
was
was
named
the
after
one.
the Greek
Yeah,
alphabet?
yep.
I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah, you're pretty good at
We
this.
even each other out, so we're pretty
But
average at it together.
Star Force was also the one that was just bare bones.
Yeah, it
there
was
was
terrible.
no power ups
It was
or
the-
anything. It was, and Joe said that this could be one that would be like fun for people that are really into shmups because they how to
because
learn
it's pure.
how to
Like
play
they
shmups.
just want to just play shmups.
And somebody wrote in and said, "Yeah, I agree."
Yeah, they agree.
Well-
and I think you disagreed with me.
I
very
just
strongly.
think that just because it's the same, it's the generic game doesn't mean it's good. You know.
I didn't say that. We'll get back into this argument again here, but I just think it's literally just the shmup. Some people
Yeah.
don't like the bells and
Like
whistles.
peanut butter. It's just peanut butter. Like I like to eat a spoonful of peanut butter
Yeah,
every once
I
in a
don't think
while.
this analogy like necessarily universally applies to like anything. Like everything is better with other things added on it. But
I mean, I just like peanut butter. So.
All right, last one.
okay,
City Connection.
I know we didn't play it yet. That's next
trick
week.
question.
Next
Very
week,
good.
what do you think it's about?
I think it's like Cities in Motion, where you just you make your own bus stops.
The amount of references you've made to dating simulators, and you chose not to suggest that City
What do you think
Connection.
City in
I
Motion
said
is? You think City in Motion is a
really?
dating simulator?
No, I was saying that you should have.
Oh, this is
like,
a dating sim?
You should have.
This
No, it's not a dating sim, but you
This
should
is
have went in
gross,
on
Mike.
that,
We
right?
can't do this.
Like a City
Children
Connection.
listen to this.
Okay.
I was going to say that it's going to be more of like a missed connection thing. Like your character
connections.
met someone, but then it's before cell phones, and they didn't
Mike, I'm sorry.
couldn't find each
Please
other.
explain.
It's an arcade game The player controls Clarice in her Honda City hatchback. That has to be mentioned. It's in the overview. In her Honda City hatchback. And she must paint every section of a highway throughout 12 stages, each taking place in a famous city from across the world.
That sounds surprisingly interesting.
Until you realize that the highway that you're painting is just lines
okay,
that stack up on each other. It's not an actual highway kind of thing. Yeah.
There are no cars?
There's other cars those are the obstacles.
Oh, okay. They didn't put up any barrier?
No.
Oh, that's dumb.
All right. Good show, guys. Anything you want to say before we wrap up for the next 100 episodes?
No.
I'll get you on. I'll get you on 200.
Wait, what day is this episode airing?
This is the first episode of 2020.
Okay. Go Bills beat the Texans?
All right. I like the odds.
I like the question.
Texans.
Yeah, at the end.
If it's the Texans, I like those odds.
Yeah.
Great.